You have to figure out with your lifestyle, with your preference and your personality, with how you like to deliver content and who you're delivering the content for, what combination works best for you.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 405. And today we're going to find out 5 video content mistakes that coaches and experts are making, and it's costing them leads and sales. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier, and today we are highlighting another one of my amazing graduates from the 100K Authority Accelerator program. I have had so much fun sharing some of the amazing people that I've had the privilege to work with them. And this is a friend of mine I have known for years. And she is such an amazing powerhouse in her own right, but also in the world of video content, video marketing, and live streams. And what we talked about in this episode is going to illuminate where you might be going wrong with video, why it's not performing for you, why you're doing all of these amazing videos and people are not clicking on them and they're not dropping in and becoming your leads. I had the great privilege of Tanya interviewing me for her show, Stream Like a Boss. It was a masterclass. I was so blown away at what she does. I will actually link it up today in the show notes. So if you want to pop over to YouTube and watch this masterful conversation that she facilitated, I got to tell you, if you're not subscribing to her show, you need to. But one of the things that really was illuminated going through this process, especially for Tanya, was as we were going through the messaging, going through her signature framework, going through how powerful her work is and who she really, really serves, like clarifying these tiny little tweaks in something that was already performing well. It's almost like it gave everything she does a turbocharge. And one of the ways that people have been raving about the 100K Authority Accelerator program is it's not that you don't have any messaging or any offer. It's that what you have needs to be turbocharged so it stands out, so it's attracting more of your ideal clients, so that you're really more in flow and just a confidence boost by getting that clarity the way that Tanya did. It just makes everything perform a million times better. So you can take what it is that you do well, go through the process to really uncover your lighthouse message, your signature framework, your messaging strategy, and even like where are the right shows and podcasts and stages for you to build a presence around. Ask Tanya. She will tell you going through this process was massively illuminating for her, where she was pouring really important time and energy into things that was not aligned for her. So you got a time issue, you need to really optimize everything you do. You want your offers to perform better, you need to really optimize your message for ideal clients landing in your sales process. If that's really speaking to you, I'd love to explore the 100K Authority Accelerator with you. My whole promise in that program is you're going to be able to generate another 6 figures by dialing in all of the essential pieces of your message, your offer, and your customer journey and getting you in front of the right audiences where your ideal clients are searching for solutions. So I'll link that up in the show notes. You can also go to 100K Authority Accelerator. That's 100K AuthorityAccelerator.com to get all of the details. All right. I can't wait to share this interview with you. This conversation is fire. Cannot wait to hear your big ahas. So let's get right into it. Welcome back, Amplifiers. Today, you're going to discover the 5 biggest mistakes that coaches and experts are making with video that ends up costing them clients and cash. I can't wait to introduce you to our special guest today. She is one of the graduates of 100K Authority, and she is a total badass. Meet Tanya Smith. She's the founder of Get Noticed with Video and host of Stream Like a Boss TV. With almost 20 years in digital marketing, Tanya is a veteran coach and video content strategist. She's known for her soothing voice and innovative use of apps to get things done. She helps service business owners master a 4-step boss formula to create consistent lead generating live streams that transform their audience from crickets to cash paying clients. Now, you've probably seen her featured all over the internet. She's done so many high profile podcasts. She's been featured in magazines. She's been on stages all over the place with her specialty around video. And she's your go to guide for elevating your brand with live stream marketing. And now I get to share her with you and have her share what you could do differently to turn those videos into actual client getting lead attraction machines. Tanya, I'm super excited to have you here today.
Well, I am thrilled and honored to be here and absolutely proud of being a graduate of your program. Melanie, you are amazing. So, of course, I'm happy to be here.
Well, it is definitely a mutual love fest here. But I've known Tanya for years. And so just noticing the little tiny tweaks and refinements that she made that just really shifted things in her positioning and messaging and just clarity. Sometimes like we just need someone to kind of part the trees, go,
Yeah,
hey, what about this? It's just, yeah, little tweaks have huge impact. Well,
they
let's
do.
talk about video. And let's talk about, we talked about this a lot over the last few weeks because there's a lot of people that know they need to be doing video. And there's a lot of people that are doing video
Yeah.
and or not maybe doing video well. What are you seeing is the biggest obstacle that coaches and experts face when it comes to using video to market their business?
The biggest obstacle, and I'm going to be very specific to answer your question about the marketing, the business part, because I think the biggest challenge and roadblock that I see is most people aren't really using video to market their business. They
Mm.
haven't thought about an offer that's related to the video content. They haven't thought about strategy. They're simply out doing video to do video because somebody said, you need to be on camera. So, strategy, lack of strategy, is one of the biggest roadblocks to being able to truly use it for marketing.
Mm. So let's paint a little picture around this for a minute because I want our listeners today to really imagine themselves in one of these two scenarios. So scenario one is somebody who's successfully using video. What do you and so scenario one is they're successfully using video. The second category, the second scenario is somebody who's been told they need video, but it's not really doing anything for them. What's the big difference between those two types of video presences?
The big differentiator is whether or not it's actually driving an audience of people who could potentially be leads that become paying clients versus just having a lot of, what do we call it? Cosmetic virality. So people who
Mhm.
like and comment, that's great. That's nice. And you might see folks out there who are doing videos that are getting a lot of likes and comments. But the difference is the people who are making the money may not be getting as many likes and comments, but because they have strategy that is driving the right and the ideal target audience that they're looking to serve, driving them to a specific action that you can't see on camera. So I think the biggest differentiator is going to be whether or not you have video people who are making money and people who are doing video that don't.
Mm. Yes, well said. And I think that's a common, I don't know if it's a myth or it's a illusion that you want to get lots of people commenting and liking. I mean, there is a algorithm payoff to
Yeah.
that, But like, let's face it, if you're not getting the attention of the people who want to hire you, there's a lot of efforting going on with very little return on that efforting.
That's right. I have seen a number of people and people who have become my clients and others I just see randomly out there that have been posting video content. And what I've seen, especially with the ones who have come to me and privately shared, hey, it looks like I'm doing great because I have this many followers and this many people liking and this many people commenting, but I'm not making money. I don't know how to convert these folks into these viewers into actual clients. And
Mhm.
so I think that one of the things that is really important to me is to help people to understand that, yeah, I mean, it's good to be visible, but like you always teach us, Melanie, the visibility needs to drive action. It needs to drive people to an outcome, to a result. And so, honestly, one of the biggest, I think, myths is that if you go viral, which really, by the way, is much harder than it sounds. But if you go viral and there are a lot of people that are liking your content, that equals a payday. And you can really see this on YouTube. There are tons and tons of forums and conversational discussion threads where you'll see people who are on YouTube that have been spending the last 4 or 5 years dedicated to creating all this constant content, and they're burnt out and they're saying, I can barely pay my bills.
This is something that is so important that you just said. I want to repeat it. Content doesn't pay the bills. And when you are prolifically putting content out, and I've even fell into this trap in the past too, where it's like, oh my gosh, there's all this content going out, but there's nothing coming back in. What do you think? Like, what? Well, hold on. I got so many questions that are coming out all of a sudden. I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I want to go with this next? But I think what let's lean into this next piece, which is how, if you're creating video and you're creating this regular content, because consistency matters,
Yes.
how can you ensure that you're bringing the right content in the right kind of like way so that the
Mhm.
look and the feel and the professionalism and all the pieces that are important so that they don't get frustrated with
Mhm.
how the video is being consumed out there?
So I think we're kind of touching on branding a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're touching on branding, but there's also a second piece to this too. So the branding of your videos, it starts with more than just the look and feel. People look at my videos and they're like, "Oh, I recognize her because she's got the pink, and she has all these different elements that are her." So when they see my live streams every week, for instance, there's a lot of consistency there in the appearance. What they don't see is the work that's going on behind the scenes. So the brand is not just about the visual, it's also about, have I thought through and been intentional around what I'm marketing? So what's my mastery? What am I great at? And what do I want to talk about when I get on camera? Um, who is my market? So who am I talking to? Who's the audience? And what's the main message? What's at the heart of the message that I want to deliver and share with them? And then finally, what's the method by which I'm doing that? So I've put work into understanding those things so that when I do create the content, not only does it look great, but it's impactful because it's reaching a specific audience that I'm talking to who now identifies themselves in the words that I'm using, who now also sees that she's an expert in this thing and this is where I have pain, right? Who also understands that there's this thread that runs through every video that I talk about because I'm not all over the place talking today about relationships. And then tomorrow I'm talking about raising cats. And then the next day I'm talking about politics. They see this running thread. And so they're more likely to come back. So I think it's the mixture of the brand um, from a visual aspect, but also the intentional and purposeful thinking and strategy, like we talked about or touched on, of why I'm doing this and who I'm doing it for.
Hmm. So you touched on branding. You also touched on consistency of messaging. I was now curious about consistency of look, right? And let's talk about the double-edged sword here, because I think a lot of people, how they get their video to look good gets to become a bottleneck for them. It becomes a barrier for them to getting their video out. What are some tips you have for somebody who they're like, oh, I don't know, can I do good looking video? Is that important?
Yeah.
Like, let's get them out of their heads and really, like, how can you create video that looks good consistently?
I think first prioritize by focusing on the other aspects before you get to the visual. But when it comes to the visual, if you're just starting out, first of all, know that you don't have to have $1 trillion studio. You literally can start with a clean background. And by clean, I don't mean that it necessarily has to be a full white background with nothing in the camera angles. I mean that it is something that doesn't create distraction from the content, the message that you're sharing. So I always talk to people about really starting out with just the basics. If you have a good enough camera, which could literally be your iPhone or your Samsung or your Google phone, whatever that phone might be, because that's $1,000 plus camera right there, right? If you start out with that, you start out with some decent audio, because if people can't hear you, they're moving off the video anyway. And you
Mm,
also have some decent lighting. And if lighting means that you're standing in front of your naturally lit window and that looks good enough for people, again, not to be distracted and to take away from the message, that's a great starting point. As a matter of fact, I didn't start with this studio that I have set up here. I started in a walk-in closet.
oh, wow.
I did. I started with a basic computer that had a camera that angled up my nose. It was really bad. And with a little lavalier mic. And that's how I
Oh.
started, because you got to build up that commitment
Hmm.
for the consistency piece, right? Build up that commitment not only to yourself, but to the audience of people that you've told you're going to be on camera for,
Hmm.
even if that audience is an audience of one. So the more consistent you can be in terms of the days of the week, if that works for you, or
Mhm.
at least some level of frequency. If it's not the day of the week, it's the frequency of the week. So I'm going live or I'm doing a video at least once or twice a week. Whatever you've committed to, start with that. Start with the foundational blocks that we talked about as far as understanding what you want to talk about, like what's my mastery going to be and all of those things. But then as you go, you'll start to build up this professional, you'll start to figure out like what colors do I like? I've transitioned from this really deep burgundy Melanie over to this kind of funky, fun pink. Over the years, my brand physically and visually has transformed, just because as I've grown, I've added little pieces and touches here and there. I've changed my typography and my fonts for my thumbnails. So these are things that will come, but I don't think when you're starting that you have to start there. You just need to start by opening your mouth,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
and getting on camera.
I love that you're basically saying, let's just get it done. Let's get you out there. Let's get consistent, get your
Get
presence
started.
built up, and then you can evolve how it looks, what your brand energy is, what, like when you go live, all that stuff. And it made me think, like, one of the kind of the foundational pieces of what we're talking about today, we should probably unpack this a little bit, because there's a lot of ways to do video. There's so many different things that people are taught about video. You're talking about live streaming, right? But let's just
Mhm.
unpack different types of video that people may be considering, and
Yeah.
what are the pros and cons of the live stream versus some of these others?
So today, in this moment, as we're talking, there are a lot of different types of videos that you'll hear people talk about. They may talk about pre-recorded or produced videos, which are the kind where you're recording in advance. You're making sure you edit and make them a little bit more perfected before you publish them. There will be the live streams, which I love, where you have this just authentic, what you see is what you get type of video content. And then you'll have the shorter clips. So the long form, which will be potentially anywhere 10 minutes and above. Um, the middle, which will be maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then you have the short form clips that people are actually doing on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and TikTok and places like that.
Mm.
Each of those different types of video content serves purpose. You have to figure out with your lifestyle, with your preference and your personality, with how you like to deliver content and who you're delivering the content for, what combination works best for you. Um, and there's a framework. If we have a little bit of time for me to just share the ABC framework, could that be
Yeah, please.
helpful?
I think this is a good time to do it.
When I talk about those different types of video content, again, I have been stressing live stream because that's like my heart. That's what I love. But when you're looking to, because we've talked about profitability and making sure that we're driving some level of profit with our video content, I use something called an ABC framework. And the basis of this is your customer sales cycle, right? So awareness. When people are just becoming aware of you, they're probably not going to sit for an hour-long live stream, but they might watch a 30-second or 60-second reel and start to get to know more about you. They might be on TikTok and scrolling through and thinking, wow, these little these teasers that they're giving me are really great. Let me see what else they have.
Mm.
Right. So the awareness is really going to be more of the short and medium size videos, which is why it's good to have this variety. The B is for bonding. So bonding is where that's my specialty. That's where the live streams take place. So people are coming from maybe that 10-minute or less or that 60-second or less video, and they're coming and finding out, oh, she has a live stream every week. Let me come and hang out. And they see community chatting, people who are repeat audience members, and they join in on the fun and the banter and they answer the questions and they engage. And so then now they're becoming a part of this community that's on, for instance, YouTube or LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live. The C is for conversion. So people are moving now from the live stream and from this community space to saying, you know what, I'm ready to work with you now because I've seen that I have these pain points and you've shared these things over here, but I need more. And so now they become a part of your paid community and they've converted by paying dollars in exchange for additional knowledge and value that you're delivering. And then there's a D, which is the delight type of video. And these are where we get really personalized. So I like to send out video emails that are personalized to different small groups of my paid community or to people who I am helping to do something more because we did one-on-one coaching. And so now I'm leading them into something else where I'm sharing an update. And those personalized in the D are helping people with the delight phase, which is now they're raving fans and they're sending people through the chain again, right? They're sending more people to go watch your channels and to be a part of your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever. So yeah, I think there's different forms of content. And I know I kind of took the long path, but hopefully that gives an idea of where those different types of content can fit in when it comes to video.
Yeah, that was really insightful. And I love this ABCD model that you just laid out for us because I think um, it helps us really understand a bit of what's the purpose of the videos that you're producing. And I think that's where the monetization comes from is really looking at those, is rotating through those four elements, right?
Hmm. Hmm. That
Yeah.
is it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because ultimately what I hear you saying is you're building an audience. You're building an audience of people that you build a connection and rapport with, and there's trust. And that's where people are going to go, oh, I actually want to work with Tanya because I've been watching her this whole time and I feel affinity with her.
Yes, exactly right. And so having the consistency of showing up in a way that really continues to drive people back to your different videos so that they really feel like they get to know, like, and trust you makes it more likely that they're going to buy, that
Mhm.
they're going to invest in more of an experience with you. And it literally can shorten that whole time frame because, old school, it could take years for people to move from feeling like, hey, I'm on your newsletter and now I actually want to buy something. Whereas with these videos, people relate to you in a whole different and quicker way because they're like, "Hey, I see you, I know you." I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people in the grocery store and they're like, "Hey, I've seen your video. I've seen your live stream. I know you. How's that dog doing?" They're asking me personal questions because these are things that I've shared in my
Mm.
content.
I love that. That's so cool. I have yet to walk into a grocery store and have somebody say that, but I do have that happen when I go to live events. They're like, "I've
Yes.
been listening to your podcast for years. It's so great to
Yeah.
meet you." Yeah, same concept. You know, there's a lot of trends that emerge pretty regularly, different people kind of tapping into something going, "Everybody should do this." And I notice, and I think you do too, that people get caught up in chasing these trends and they end up like getting pulled away from what actually works to be profitable with their video marketing.
Yes.
How do we spot the trend that's going to be a distraction and, just stay true to what does work?
I think it really kind of goes back to having an understanding of your business model, having an understanding of what you like and what you don't like. One of the things that I realized, for instance, myself, I was starting to get into this thing of doing YouTube shorts when I realized, you know what, this is kind of taken away from my live streams, and live
Mm,
streams are my life blood. Like that's what I do. And that's where I want the focus to be, and not necessarily people who are just watching shorts because those aren't necessarily the same audience members. But I didn't know until I made the effort to try. And as I started looking at the metrics and analyzing and evaluating, I recognized then, okay, I need to make a shift and move away from this trend. I know that other people are doing this, but are their reasons the same as mine? No, my reasons would have been for the awareness factor. And instead of making people more aware, what it's doing is it's encouraging people in that space to continue to just look for short form content. And they just continue scrolling through everybody's content, not just mine. So I moved away and made a different decision in that platform. Whereas the same short videos that I'm using on Instagram could be more effective
mm.
because they're leading people to where I want them to be, which is my live stream, my full live stream. So I think it's a matter of experimentation and also just constantly monitoring your metrics and seeing, okay, I tried this, but is it really doing what I said I wanted to accomplish? Is it meeting the goal, or is it doing something different? So I think we always have an opportunity to pivot.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you brought up experimentation because as you're talking, I was thinking to myself, like, so it's like trend, test it. If it's calling you, test it. Does it deliver the result I want? So you have to really understand your KPIs. What are our goals? What are the results that are meaningful? And then don't be afraid to let go of something if it's not working. Like I
Right.
I jumped on the TikTok Reels trend early on, and I'm like, this is so not me. This is
Yeah.
like you were talking about earlier on. There's just a lot of clicking and, random dudes dropping into my DMs trying to marry me. Like, this is
Hmm.
not what I'm trying to accomplish here. And so it's just like, okay, we tested it. Let's close the door on where we don't want to put energy and put it more into where we do want energy. So I,
Yes.
I just love that you brought that into the conversation. So let's talk about accountability. You and I have had several conversations about accountability. You are one of the people who I feel like you are so good at consistency. You're so good at showing up for your practices. And by the way, friends, as you're listening in, she's like a workflow and systems queen. Like oh my God, I have a love affair with her systems. She's the version of me in systems that I've always aspired to. So got to give it to you there. You are brilliant in this area. But you also like there's an accountability to being live regularly that is so admirable in what you do. Like, How can someone drop into that level of motivation and accountability with themselves so they're staying consistent with this video process?
Yeah, that's a tough question because it was hard for me. I think for me, it came back to why am I doing this? When I first started doing this, it was because it was actually out of a sense of desperation. It was a sense of, oh my God, I'm getting no organic reach whatsoever anymore on these platforms where I used to play. What can I do differently? And so when I committed, recognizing myself and my own personal habits and how bad I can get, for instance, at stopping exercise and other things, I thought, I can't make this a short term commitment. I have to decide that I'm going to do it. I have to tell other people to help me be accountable. And then I have to put things in place. I have to put workflows and automation and other things in place to allow me the space to do this. And I committed to doing one live stream every week for a year. So I said, if it doesn't work out, then I stop. But I gave myself that year. So giving yourself the runway, first of all, making a decision that you're going to go for whatever that commitment level is, that you're going to try it and not try, that you're going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Telling other people and having people who support you and encourage you and love you to tell you to keep going, that does help. It does, but you don't always get that. So it was an internal thing for me, Melanie, but it also was kind of one of those challenges that I gave myself, and I gave myself the grace to be out if it didn't work. Like if this year, which I knew it would take some time to see results, if this year doesn't work, then I'm done. I'm not doing this, and I'm probably going to get out of social altogether. I'm not doing digital marketing. But I discovered a lot about myself, and I discovered a lot about just the process, the act of going through the process that helped me to be disciplined in ways that I didn't even know was possible.
Hmm. I love your ability to be self-aware there. What did happen when you were consistent for a year?
A whole lot of things. So, for one thing, I'm a super introvert. And by that, I mean, I literally could be in my cave. Like, I could just be here and be fine, complacent, content, all of the things.
Mm.
What happened is it allowed me to put myself, my creative juices to work because I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm really good at this. I should talk about this more. I started to figure out what I loved. I started to figure out the things that I didn't love and not do those anymore. I began to show up for myself in a professional way. There was a lot of personal growth there. My daughters, I have two daughters, saw me jumping on camera even when I wasn't having great days. They saw me being committed. And so they also took on habits and abilities to be able to do different types of video. They didn't even realize they were doing it. And then I thought, okay, yeah, I'm modeling the behavior that I want them to, to show for themselves, to show up for yourself before anybody else will show up for you.
Mm.
So personal growth, I started getting more requests for speaking gigs, for podcasts, to be on, physical stages, just a lot more visibility, but in the right way with the audiences that I truly wanted to serve, not just random people all the time, but people who I really enjoyed being around and that I felt like I could help.
That's such a great story because when you get your messaging dialed in and you're present consistently in the stream that is most aligned for you, like for video for you, then what happens is you become known, right? Like there's this viral known quality that emerges. And I love that you're doing this with video and you're brilliant with your video. Um, Tanya goes live almost every Thursday. I think you're pretty regular about it at this point. And you gotta check out her live streams on Thursday afternoons. They're so good. I
Thank
aspire
you.
to be as good as you are with video, which is, of course, the whole point, right? You want to inspire people to really step up their
Yeah.
game around that. And one of the things that I think you do so well is you're really in your vibe. Like you do you do your vibe, and you
Yep.
recognize, like we've talked about this, and you mentioned this earlier, like not everybody is your vibe. There are other
That's right.
vibes, and there are other ways to do video to match your vibe. As a matter of fact, you have a whole resource you built around that. Would you share that with our community so people can discover what their vibe is and how to create
Yeah.
the video that works for them?
Oh yeah. This is a labor of love, as you know. Other people don't know this, but because of my introverted nature, and because also of the background that I have, I started really kind of digging into the psychology of this thing because initially, when I came out and started doing live, I was not great. Oh,
Mm.
surprise. Because you're probably not going to be great. You're not going to be at your best when you first start out. Just be okay with that and give yourself some grace to forgive. um, I was watching other people and trying to mimic them.
Mm.
And I realized my energy level was not there. I realized it just felt wrong. It didn't quite feel like I was fitting into my own skin. And ultimately, I made a decision, okay, I'm just going to be the chill person that I am. Like there's a lot of people who are whoa over the top. I remember once upon a time in a corporate role, a manager saying to me, you know, you just don't jump off the walls enough for me. And that would echo in my head when I'd be starting, you know, I started doing these videos and I thought, well, I have to really bounce off the walls. And it was just not working. So the quiz, I created a quiz. I'm fast forwarding, but I created a quiz because I wanted other people to understand that the more I embraced who I am, like I love to wear t-shirts and I might wear baseball caps on my video and I'm still looking clean. Like I, you know, I look like I took a bath last night, right? Or this morning or whatever. I look like presentable, but I'm more casual and more just chill. Where there are other people who have a style that's more of an entertaining style. Maybe they sing and dance or read poetry. I'm more of an instructor type. There are
Mm.
people who are more of a connector type, like they're constantly connecting other people and they're doing interviews. So
That'd be
figuring
me.
out who, and that's you big time. So I created these four archetypes and I used Myers Briggs type indicator. So MBTI, I used that type indicator because I've facilitated that over the years in my corporate role and was able to come up with these four live stream archetypes that really lean in on each of those personality subcategories and created a quiz to help people to find their style so that they can get tips and ideas on, okay, here's how I can fully embrace that. I wanted to give you a shortcut instead of having to do all the fails that I did by trying to be somebody else. I wanted you to be able to take this quiz, to get these tips, to understand that you are beautifully who you are in this moment and you don't have to be anybody else to be on camera and to be able to get on and just go. So that's
Mm.
to me what this quiz helps people to do.
And where do people find it?
You go to streamlikeaboss.tv/quiz
Oh, super
and you'll
easy.
find it.
And we will link that up in the show notes for you. And when you're talking about really finding your vibe, I was remembering my journey, especially as a speaker on stages, and feeling like I wanted to do better. I wanted to be able to serve more people and attract more people. And I would take these trainings and I would feel like I would get on stage and have these outer body experiences because I'm like, I'm not me.
Yeah.
And really like integrating strategies, but keeping my authenticity, like in being my vibe, was just so rewarding. I finally just
Yeah.
had to trust and say, you know what? I'm just meant to attract the people that resonate with my vibe because I am not an off the wall, you know, big energy person either. So I really resonate with this so much. And I love this quiz. It's so insightful. So,
Thank
friends,
you.
as you're listening in, if you're like, I want to know my live stream vibe, make sure you go and take the quiz and let us know what vibe you find yourself. You can even just, if you're watching this on social media, you can drop that. This is my vibe, and make sure you connect with Tanya or even tag her and say, I found my vibe.
Yes.
It's very confidence building to operate out of your vibe rather than trying to emulate someone else that isn't you.
That's right.
Well, Tanya, this is the time that I like to ask some fun questions, getting to know you a little bit better as a human being, although you've shared so many wonderful things about yourself already. But when you think back, you've been doing this a long time, and you've been live streaming, you've been digital marketing, you've been a presence here for I've as long as I can remember, I've known of you in the world. What is the boldest thing you did that ended up amplifying the success of your business?
I gave myself permission to fail and not be perfect. Um,
Ooh,
I am very, as you have kind of touched on a little bit, I am a disciplined person by nature. It's just who I always have been. However, sometimes that would turn into this need to feel like all the lights need to be green before I pull out of the garage to get to my destination. And once I realized that it just wasn't going to happen that way, and I would have some fails and there would be things that would go wrong, the more I let that understanding creep in, the more I realized, okay, I'm just going to try more things. And so video was one of those things I tried and I loved. And I hope that people will get that message from this conversation that you may not even know that video is right for you. You probably are sitting there saying, I can't do video. That's not my thing. But you don't know because you haven't tried.
mm,
So I've given myself permission and the grace. And the older I get, the more I really feel this. Like, you don't have all the time in the world you have right now. So why not? Right? Try
yeah.
something and commit to it for a bit so that you can get some results and analyze and see if it's right for you. And then just move forward and keep building the plan, build a plane as you're flying, as they say.
Mm. I love that. And as a personal reflection on that, first of all, that is very inspiring to hear when people give themselves permission to fail. I certainly had to embrace that. I spent a lot of time beating myself up for failures. And at a certain point, I had one piece of clarity, and that is the most successful people fail often. They just don't wallow in it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, look at that. I'm already successful. I'm failing a lot.
I know, right?
And then we learn from it, right? Like we learn, we grow, we incorporate the learning, and then we get to pick up and keep going the direction we're meant to go with more wisdom, right?
That's right.
Now, looking back towards the beginning, I'm sure there's a moment where you did something that had a huge, just like it accelerated things for you. What's one thing you wish you had done sooner after you realized how important it was going to be?
Oh, hire a coach.
Okay.
That's real talk. I did not understand the power of having a coach. And one of my coaches, somebody that you know, actually said to me, you can't charge X amount until you've paid X amount. Until you've invested this in yourself,
Mhm.
you're not going to charge this because you won't understand the value. So I know a lot of people are out there talking about high ticket coaching and all of that kind of stuff, right? And high ticket, whatever it is that you do as an expert. But if you continue to wallow in this idea of scarcity and you don't invest in yourself, it's going to be much harder for you to convince other people that they should invest in you. And that was for me, the big deal. The thing that changed everything was when I first invested in like a like a high dollar coach. For me, it felt like it was a big risk, a big jump. But when I did it and after we worked together, I recognized, okay, this is what they were talking about. It's like a light switch went on.
That is such a powerful lens into mindset because I would agree 100%. Like I've invested thousands of dollars over the years. I've invested in massive big ticket things that didn't work.
Yep.
And I've invested in what I would consider really great value programs that I was bored out of my mind. And I've invested in mentors that just propelled me forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's about the container that you're in, right? It's like really like being willing to invest in where you're going.
Yeah.
It's
It
so well
is.
said. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so good, Tanya. Thank you for what you're bringing to the world. Thank you for teaching us about how to uplevel our live stream vibe and really keep it authentic. Like we don't need a world full of Tanyas or Melanies or whoever else are the guru of the month. We need you to be seen more and like really understand your vibe, understand how to be present where people are searching for you. Any last thoughts, Tanya, before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I just appreciate you creating containers for other people through the podcast, through the programs that you offer. I think each and every one of us has the ability to create. I used to call it the pink bubble because a good friend of mine, Ellen Britt, kind of coined that phrase for me. But I think that through your voice, and when you do become more visible, you have an opportunity and an obligation at the same time to then create the space to pass on what you know and how you are becoming that next level person. You get the opportunity to really influence other people that are in your care to be at their best too. So just whatever media that might be, if it might not be video for you, but try something and figure out what that is to help you to be more visible so that you can fulfill your mission, which is to make that impact.
I just got chills. I'm with you on that one. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for tuning in today. Tell us what ahas you got from this conversation about live streams. Let us know what you're going to incorporate. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.